Welcome to the universe with Alex. Today we're checking out photos humanity has been waiting over half a century for. The far side of the moon. And spoiler alert, it's not just gray like you probably thought. Ever wonder what the moon looks like through an astronaut's eyes? Not through a telescope, but actually being there. I'm gonna show you, and I promise it's gonna blow your mind. Together, we're going to break down the footage shot from the Orion spacecraft, and I'll explain why the moon isn't exactly what they show you in textbooks. It's actually greenish, bluish, and in some spots, even mustard yellow. Oh, and we'll talk about where those weird squiggles on the moon came from. Yep, that's exactly what the Artemis II astronauts called them. Now, check out this shot. Know what this is? That's an Earthrise over the lunar surface. Look at that. The ground is literally chewed up by asteroid craters. But that's not even the craziest part. The coolest thing is that this was shot on a standard iPhone 17. I bet some of you have one of those sitting right next to you on the table or in your pocket right now. But we aren't all as lucky as Reid Wiseman, the commander of the Artemis II mission. Yeah, this is his footage. He literally just grabbed his cell phone, looked out the window, and snapped this exact shot. Who would have thought that one day a human being would just casually peek at the far side of the moon? Oh yeah, guys. Mother Nature definitely didn't prep us for this. By the way, I'll drop a link to the max resolution NASA pics in the description below this video. You probably know that during the lunar flyby, the Orion spacecraft lost contact with Earth for 40 minutes. That's completely normal because the moon literally blocks the ship, making it impossible for any comms to reach the astronauts. The Chinese actually solved this problem, but I guess they forgot to share the cheat code with their American colleagues. Anyway, when comms were finally reestablished, the very first thing Earth heard were the mind-blown words of astronaut Christina Koch.
Houston, another observation, whole moon. When you look at the moon, something I've never seen in photographs before, but is very apparent. What it really looks like is like a lampshade with tiny pinprick holes and the light shining through. They are so bright compared to the rest of the moon.
NASA has already dropped these high-res images to the public. So, kick back and relax. I've hand-picked the best ones for you, and I'm ready to break them down. Don't be shy, smash that subscribe button. We're taking a flight over the moon. Let's kick things off with those famous green lunar fields that absolutely stunned the Artemis II crew. Take a look at this photo. I hope you're not too disappointed to see a gray moon again. It looks pretty standard here, but I promise you'll see the true colors of our satellite real soon, exactly how the astronauts saw it. Right now, those colors are hiding from our naked eye because of our camera limitations. But man, there is so much packed into this single frame. Check out the top left corner. That's the Terminator line, the border between the sunlit side of the moon and the side that's permanently stuck in the dark. Down at the bottom is the Oriental Basin. Now look just to the left, see that blindingly bright, fresh crater with those light rays shooting out of it? That's Glushko crater. Those rays stretch for hundreds of miles, and they're still that bright because the solar wind hasn't had time to toast them dark yet. And out on the horizon lies the massive Ocean of Storms, with the tiny glowing speck of Aristarchus crater right on its edge. Look how unrealistically bright it is. Early astronomers literally thought it was an active volcano. Even during the Apollo missions, astronauts reported some weird glowing in this area, and sensors picked up radon gas emissions. It's still one of the moon's biggest mysteries to this day. But Aristarchus isn't even the weirdest thing here. Look closely at the dark, smooth plains of the Ocean of Storms, just right of the center. See that strange, bright spot? It looks like a calligraphy squiggle or a giant tadpole. Don't worry, the Chinese astronauts didn't leave a graffiti tag up there. That is the legendary Reiner Gamma. Astronauts radioed in about these bizarre, curvy things, calling them squiggles. For years, scientists thought Reiner Gamma was just a magnetic anomaly. Unlike craters or mountains, it has zero elevation. It's an absolutely flat 45-mile optical illusion, a lunar swirl. A super powerful local magnetic field acts like cosmic sunscreen here. blocking the solar wind and stopping the soil from turning dark.
But seeing it on a satellite map is one thing, seeing it in real life is another. Astronaut Victor Glover looked out the window and said it looked like a layered structure that literally pulses in the sunlight.
Until that moment, science had three theories for Reiner Gamma: a buried iron asteroid, an ancient comet impact, or some weird ancient magma flows. But the astronauts saw geometric patterns and a pulsing structure with their own eyes. So it's time to seriously rethink those old theories. It seems the local magnetic field is super active, organizing lunar dust into layered patterns that our automated probes just wrote off as camera overexposure. And now, get ready to see the green lunar fields Christina Koch was talking about. What you're looking at on screen right now is a digital edit of that same photo, bringing the moon closer to what the human eye actually sees. Our cameras are just too weak to capture the colors our eyes can pick up, so we can't see what the astronauts saw. Or can we? To get this result, we used a classic astrophotography trick called the mineral moon. We took the raw NASA file and just cranked up the saturation to the max. Don't try this at home. Trick performed by professionals. Just kidding. We didn't add anything, we just turned up the volume on the faint color signals the camera sensor had already caught. And boom, the gray moon instantly turns into a colorful geologic map. I bet they didn't show you this in high school science class.
Let's see what we've uncovered here, and why the astronauts were so shocked. First, look at the top right corner, the Aristarchus Plateau.
On our map, it pops out in a bright mustard yellow, almost olive color. Remember Jeremy Hansen talking about a greenish tint? There it is. It contrasts heavily with everything else. Science explains this pretty easily. There are massive deposits of pyroclastic glass and a mineral called olivine here, blasted out by ancient volcanic fountains. Those tiny glass beads give off that yellow-green glow Jeremy saw. Second, check out the dark blue zone on the right. That's the ocean of storms. Normally it looks dark gray, but if you max out the color, it turns neon blue, just like a real ocean, though you definitely can't go for a swim in this one. The blue color in lunar seas comes from a high titanium content, specifically the mineral ilmenite. The more titanium in the hardened lava, the bluer the sea. So this isn't just a pretty picture, it's a geological treasure map of resources that could drive future space expansion. The left side of the photo features the highlands of the far side. In our shot, they take on this weird, cold turquoise color. This is the exact area Christina Koch and Reid Wiseman called an incredibly rugged chaos. The light turquoise means there's a ton of anorthorsite here, the oldest rock in the lunar crust, rich in aluminum.
It's exactly this turquoise glow set against the blue seas that gave the astronauts the illusion that parts of the moon were shimmering green.
Finally, look at that little white dot in the blue ocean of storms. That's our old buddy, Reiner Gamma. Notice anything? The sea around it is bright blue, but the squiggle itself stays crystal white. This is hard proof that its magnetic umbrella works. The solar wind can't cook the soil here. The magnetic field deflects it, keeping the lunar surface completely pristine and blindingly white. Looking at this, you realize when the Artemis II astronauts said the moon didn't look gray to them anymore, they weren't making it up. The human eye is just way more sensitive than cameras and can spot colors where our tech totally drops the ball. Moving right along. In the second photo, we catch a fragile, shy glimpse of a crescent Earth hanging right over the horizon of the far side. This shot is special because it shows exactly what the human eye sees. Earth here isn't some massive CGI blue globe out of a Marvel movie, it's a tiny little fragile sliver. That's what it looks like from the lunar surface. The astronauts admitted that looking out the window at that exact moment, they got hit with the overview effect. This sudden realization of how tiny and vulnerable humanity is without our home planet.
By the way, want to know more about the overview effect and how it might mess with our heads if we ever try to leave the solar system? Let me know in the comments, and I'll make a dedicated video on it.
Now just appreciate photo number 3. Earth is about 6 minutes away from dipping below the horizon. The right side is sunlit, daytime, and the left is drowning in total darkness. If you look really closely at the day side through the clouds, you can spot a muted blue area. That's Australia and the Pacific Islands. Now look back down to the moon. See those weird chains of craters? Those are secondary craters. Billions of years ago, a massive asteroid slammed into the moon at insane speeds. The impact blasted molten rock everywhere. When those massive chunks crashed back down, they left these perfect dotted lines on the surface. On Earth, rain, wind, and tectonic plates wiped this stuff out ages ago. But here, history has been frozen for billions of years, like a museum.
Next frame. Here, you're looking at the start of a total solar eclipse. But you're not watching it from Earth. You're seeing it from lunar orbit. Because the Orion capsule was flying so close to the moon, to the crew, the moon looked way bigger than the sun. Because of that, this eclipse lasted almost a full hour for them. In the foreground, it's pitch black, while the jagged mountains on the horizon are backlit by the bright rays of the solar corona. No automated probe could ever capture this contrast so perfectly. Photo 5 takes us deep into the most ancient geology of our satellite. This is the heavily cratered eastern edge of the South Pole Aitken Basin. Try to wrap your head around this. This basin is 1,550 miles across and 5 miles deep. It makes the Grand Canyon look like a pothole. It's the biggest and oldest impact crater in the entire solar system. The impact that created it was so violent, it shattered the lunar crust and exposed the mantle underneath. You can literally find the blueprints of the moon's surface structure down there. That's exactly where the Chinese rover Chang'e 4 landed, and where the Chang'e 6 probe just scooped up soil samples. The Terminator line cuts across the top of the frame, making this ancient wasteland look a little spooky. In this photo, the Terminator line looks even more jagged. Because the sunlight is hitting at a super low angle, crater rims poke out of the dark like glowing islands in a pitch-black ocean. The giant scars of the Oriental Basin, which is 3.7 billion years old, slice right through the center of the shot. They intersect with the massive Hirschsprung Basin. Fun fact, Hirschsprung is so huge, almost 370 miles across, that you could fit the entire state of Texas inside it. But we never see it from Earth. A Soviet probe snapped the first pic of it back in 1965, and now we're seeing it in glorious 4K through the eyes of the Artemis II crew. Now, look over here. Spot that tiny scar in the middle of nowhere? That is our Earth, shrunk down to a paper-thin waning crescent against the void. Only the thinnest sliver of the planet is lit up. You can barely make out the blue of the oceans.
Meanwhile, somewhere down there, you're sitting in your chair, watching our channel, completely forgetting that you're hootling through the endless dark of the universe on a tiny speck of dust. In moments like this, space feels especially cold and indifferent.
This photo is awesome because of the insane light and shadow play. Orion is flying right along the Terminator line. Since the sunbeams are running almost perfectly parallel to the ground, the shadows stretch for dozens of miles, acting like nature's 3D X-ray of the terrain. The result is a perfect 3D view of the Joule and Stebbins craters, plus the monstrous Birkhoff crater. Birkhoff is a ruined plain about 200 miles wide. It's so old and beaten up by newer meteorites that its edges are barely visible. It's named after a famous American mathematician, by the way. This shot captures the most tense moment of the entire mission: Earth setting behind the moon. In exactly 3 minutes, Orion will slip into the radio shadow, and comms with Houston will go totally dead for 40 minutes. 4 humans will become the loneliest members of our entire species, out further from their home planet than anyone else. Gives you goosebumps, right? In the foreground is the stunning Ohm crater. Yep, named after the same physics guy whose laws tortured you in high school. If you look at this crater from above, Bright rays shoot out from it for hundreds of miles, which means it's relatively young. Check out those mountains right in the middle of its flat floor. Those aren't volcanoes. When the asteroid hit, the crust compressed and then rebounded like a spring, shooting a central peak upward, just like a drop of water bouncing back when you toss a rock in a puddle. Except this one bounced and froze as solid rock. Looking at this shot, you really get why we need humans in space. This is a close-up of Vavilov crater. Know how they shot this? With a 400mm telephoto lens. Vavilov, named after the great geneticist, looks incredibly fresh. On the right, you can clearly see the transition from the smooth, hardened rock, impact melt, basically magma from the crash, to the rough, jagged terrain outside. A robot's programming would never have the creative eye to frame a shot quite like this. Here, we see the concentric rings of the Oriental Basin. Looks like a giant cosmic bullseye. The crazy part is, we barely ever see it from Earth. It hides right on the edge of the lunar disk and only peeks out when the moon wobbles a little on its axis.
Astronomers call this wobble libration. Another fun fact for you, right? And it's totally true. The moon doesn't just hang perfectly still. It slightly rocks side to side, occasionally giving us a peek at part of the far side.
On the top left corner, you can spot two small craters. The crew officially named them Integrity after the Orion ship itself, and Carol in memory of Commander Reid Wiseman's late wife. A really touching human footprint left out there in the cold eternity of space. Here we have a hyper-detailed landscape of the far side. Looks like Swiss cheese, right? The surface here is just peppered with craters of all sizes. Since there's no atmosphere, there's nothing for the light to scatter through. The contrast is insane. It's either blindingly white light or pitch black shadow, absolutely nothing in between. Smack in the middle of this image are two craters, Pointing and Keeler. They're right next to each other, but man, are they different. The top one, Pointing, has crisp edges and a smooth floor. The rock there melted and settled like a fresh ice rink right after a Zamboni drove over it. But Keeler, right below it, named after an American astronomer, has a super complex texture, a central peak, and even its very own little parasite crater, Plant, sitting right on its rim.
The moon is literally a history textbook of the solar system, where disasters are written right on top of each other.
Moving on to the next frame, and here's Birkhoff crater again. Here, the astronauts used a slick photography hack. They intentionally underexposed the shot in low light. In bright light, the moon looks flat and gray, but underexposing it reveals microscopic differences in surface roughness and how the debris is scattered. We get to see terrain textures that regular lunar probes just can't pick up. In this photo, we've got the bottom half of the lunar disk with the Oriental Basin dead center. See that black patch of lava in the middle? That's called Lacus Veris, or the Lake of Spring. Eons ago, a meteorite slammed into the moon so hard that it punched right through the crust. The cracks went deep into the mantle, and billions of years ago, liquid magma poured out, filling the center of this giant crater with dark basalt. Here, you are looking at absolute chaos, ancient terrain where not a single square inch was spared. This scarred landscape is a reminder that the moon is basically Earth's gravitational bodyguard. For millions of years, it's been taking cosmic punches that otherwise would have hit us dead on. Look at the southwest edge of the Oriental Basin. See that mountain range curving like a giant bow? Those are the Cordillera Mountains, just like the ones on Earth, but on the moon. Astronomers aren't exactly super creative with names, as you've noticed. It's the outer ring of the basin, sticking up almost 16,000 feet. Back in the Apollo days, astronauts looking down at these curved shapes joked around and called it the kiss of the moon. And honestly, it really does look like a pair of lips on planetary scale. Here we have a whole atlas in a single frame. Ohm crater, the ocean of storms, Grimaldi and Pierrazzo craters, our newly named Carroll crater, and the giant Hertzsprung basin. The Grimaldi Basin is actually a totally unique spot. It's one of the darkest places on the entire moon. It absorbs almost all the light that hits it. On the flip side, Pierrazzo, named after the Italian-American researcher Elisabetta Pierrazzo, is the exact opposite, super fresh and bright. Let's bring up the Terminator line one more time and take a look at it. The sun is setting and the shadows get infinitely long. Did you know Galileo Galilei used the exact same shadow effect to map the moon's mountains with his old primitive telescope way back in 1609? Centuries later, the trick still works.
The human eye, picking up the depth of these shadows, instinctively builds a 3D model of the space better than modern computers can. Let's give some major props to whoever designed the human eye.
And finally, the last photo. Hope you're still awake. Here is the curved horizon of the moon, jagged silhouettes of craters and deep basins dropping off into the bottomless black void of space at the bottom of the frame. Personally, this photo gives me the feeling that the universe is hostile, harsh, and absolutely beautiful in its raw, untouched state. A world that 4 humans just flew over in a tiny capsule, putting their lives on the line for the sake of science. The crew of Artemis II did the near impossible. They brought back that feeling of true exploration. They showed us a living, pristine world on the far side and proved one major thing. It doesn't matter how many robots we send into space, nothing will ever replace human intuition, human emotion, and the sharp eye of an explorer.
Thanks for hanging out with me on this journey to the moon. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a like. Let me know in the comments which photo was your favorite. See you in orbit soon. And remember, the universe is a lot more complex than you think.